Morning, everyone. Ray here to talk about our 2022 State of Illinois School Day SAT exam, which is going to take place on Wednesday, April 13th. This is our staff training, and it's going to go over just a few details, a few highlights to get ready for the exam. So, on Wednesday, April 13th, first off, this is a non flex day for students and staff, and this has been communicated to everyone. So staff, you have PLCs. So you'll be able to go to your PLC, and then when they're over around 8:30, everyone working the SAT exam is asked to come to room 255 to pick up your materials. The kids obviously have been emailed their testing rooms and are asked no later than 8:45 to report to their testing rooms. Once they get there, we're going to go through some pre-administration activities. Their answer sheets have a label on them, but they still need to bubble in and write in some information no matter what. So we're going to be asking them to do that. Then they will go through their breakdown of exams. As you can see here, a reading test for 65 minutes, a short break, writing and language test for 35 minutes, a math no calculator test for 25 minutes, another short break, now the math calculator test for 55 minutes, and lastly, the essay for 50 minutes, and then that will get them all done. We anticipate that testing will go, hopefully starting a little after 9 a.m. and it'll go until a little after 1:15 p.m. When you come to room 255 to pick up your materials, first off, we ask everyone to come. There is a sign-in sheet. This is College Board needs us to have all of our room supervisors sign in. And then you're going to pick up the materials. And what you're going to get is obviously the test booklets and answer sheet. You're going to get something called the student answer sheet instruction book. This has a bunch of codes in it. The kids are able to send off their SAT score to up to 4 colleges for free. And there's a time during the pre-administration when they can fill this out if they so desire. If they don't want to, they don't have to. And if they're unsure, they can actually even go back and put in the information in their College Board account later on, past the testing time. You'll get some pencils and Kleenex, stopwatch, a sheet that's pink in color for the cheating announcement. I'll go through that later on, the materials report. And then lastly, you'll also get your seating chart, your timing sheet, attendance roster, a sheet that's green, that's what you have to write on the board, and then a purple calculator sheet. I'm going to go through all of this stuff later in the presentation. The materials report is a sheet of paper that'll have some information filled out on it. It's going to have each room is going to have a certain quantity of testing booklets and the serial numbers for those books. You're going to return that sheet, and what you're going to have to indicate to us is how many were used and how many were unused. We record that as well as the serial numbers used because this is part of our reconciliation for how many test booklets we used and to be scored versus how many we didn't use. There obviously is a seating chart. We have pre-filled in the seating chart with the kids' names. This is to help you get the kids situated in the room. There's an attendance roster. The attendance roster is what we're going to collect once testing has begun, probably about 15, 20 minutes into testing to make sure who's arrived versus who hasn't arrived. If a child comes late, as long as you have not started test number 1, they can be admitted to the room. And we'll finish the pre-administration stuff later. We'll finish it after the test. Now, most likely they'll finish it with me. But once test number 1 has started, that child has officially missed the exam, and they'll have to do a makeup because this is a requirement, not only in D128, but for the state of Illinois for a high school diploma. This year, there's a spot where we talk about room codes. The room code is the room number that you're in. And I'll show you on the answer sheet where they'll fill that in. When the students enter, we have them no food or drink in the room. It's going to be in the hallway, and they can access that during break. No cell phones. They've been told this, as well as smartwatches. But invariably, you're going to have to remind them several times. We ask them to turn off their cell phone because sometimes even on silent, an alarm can go off. And honestly, we really ask them put it in your backpacks, put it out in the hallway. All right. The hallways are going to be secure during testing. We have no worries about theft at that time. And the phone should be secure. And we just want them out of the room. The students should have an ID with them, whether it's their driver's license or school ID, either way, to let them know who they are. If you recognize them, that's fine too, so that we can properly mark them for attendance. If you have no idea who the student is, you can do one of two things. You can bring them down to room 255 and we'll look them up on PowerSchool, or you can go looking for a teacher that the kid knows and get a personal recognition. You're going to seat them according to the seating chart, and you'll do this by you can take the answer sheets and literally put them down in the seats that the kids are going to use, and ultimately you're going to take attendance. The rooms should be set up so that all the desks face in one direction, hopefully towards the whiteboard and a clock. Now, some of the rooms, based on orientation, might be a little bit different, but we do need to have all the kids sitting in one direction, as spread out as can be, and hopefully facing a whiteboard for some of the written directions. The clock sometimes is in that same spot, sometimes it's on the opposite side. And if that's the case, that's the case. That's all right. You do not need to remove extra desks from the room. That's something we used to have to do, but we don't have to do now. And all of the rooms, we only have, I think, 20 students in each testing room, so all of the rooms have enough seats. Calculators. The kids are asked to bring their calculators. But however, if they forget, we're going to have a limited supply of loaner calculators in room 255 before the testing begins. If a kid needs a calculator, um, you get their ID from them and then send someone down to room 255 to get a loaner. And then after they use it for test number 4, they can give it back to you and you'll give them back your ID. And then ultimately, when you return all your materials to us, you'll return the calculators. The distribution of the test books, like I said, we have a seating chart for you, and the test books are distributed in sort of in a serpentine order, forwards, backwards. And ultimately, when you distribute them, you're going to have to write the test book number on the seating chart so we know which kid gets which book. If a child's absent, you skip them. You don't put down a test book for them, you skip them. And then we'll come by ultimately and collect those answer sheets that are unused because any kid that misses this exam is going to have to do a makeup later in the month. On their answer sheets, there's a space that asks for the student ID number. This ID number is their state ID number, their state of Illinois number, not their LHS number. This can be found on their student label, and they should take that number and bubbling in, starting from the far left to as many digits as you needed on the right. And be careful, help them watch them when they bubble in. When they bubble in, they have to write it in and then fill in the bubble, and that's the same for all the different spots on the answer sheet. In terms of sharing responsibilities, every room has 2 supervisors in it. We're giving out 3 tests this day, the SAT, the PSAT 10, and the PSAT 8-9, and literally every person in the building is helping for testing on both the 13th for the College Board test as well as the 14th for the Illinois Science Assessment. So you and your partner should help each other pass out materials, collect materials, read directions, do timing, take attendance. However, you can also divvy up those responsibilities. There always needs to be one person in the room, but there 2 people do not always need to be in the room. Best practice would be there are always 2 people there at the start of an exam and at the end, especially for any questions. While you're in the room, unfortunately, there is no eating and drinking in the room. There's no grading papers, and there's no reading. You're there to help the kids with the testing, make sure the timing is correct, and observe them to make sure that they are testing in the right way and not doing anything that they shouldn't be. In terms of timing, these are standardized tests, so the timing is very important. It needs to be perfect. So please use your timing sheet to figure out for each section when you start on this time when it needs to end. You'll be writing on the board. The start time and the stop time. And during each test, there are certain times when you have to physically say you have X number of minutes remaining in the exam. Whoever's in the room, since you're both supervisors, anyone can read that information, and it needs to be read so that the kids know their pacing and to make sure that since that's part of the test directions, that the kids are aware of exactly what's going on for each test. Irregularities, certainly hope we don't have any. However, we can. If you think something's going wrong in the exam, whether it's a student that's ill or just a weird testing behavior, come and find me in room 255 and we'll figure it out together. the biggest thing is if something happens, immediately write down the time. Okay, if it's a student concern, they're ill or something, obviously immediately take care of the student, and after that we'll figure out the testing. Okay. um, Sometimes I'll tell you, in the past the biggest ones that we've had to worry about are two. One, an alarm still going off. If that's the case, silence the phone, take the phone, and have the kids keep testing, and then someone come and talk to me. The other one is kids, after time is called, sometimes without even looking at the questions, just bubbling in answers. Okay, that's why we have that pink sheet to read to them before testing even starts. Read it to them because we want to sort of really get in their heads that filling in answers after time is cheating. Okay, in a standardized test, that's cheating. Don't do it. So want to be watching it. If the kids are not acting well, or if they're having trouble keeping their eyes on their own paper, it is perfectly acceptable to go up to a child and quietly be like, hey, please, keep your eyes on your own paper. If they're still having problems with it, to stand by them. um, and ultimately, if they're really having troubles with this, to get your partner to observe the situation, try and work with the kid, and then let me know. If we have to dismiss them, we will. But we really want to make sure, we never really want to accuse anyone of doing an improper thing unless there's two adults and we've been working with the child and observed the behavior happening, and it's still not happening. All right. But hopefully that's not the case. But really, anything that you're thinking is just weird or funny, come and find me in room 255, and we can talk it through and see what we can do. Ultimately, you're going to collect materials. One thing that I will ask you to do is, on the answer sheets, when they're filling out the information, please watch them. Okay, make sure that they're writing in what they have to write in. Make sure that they're bubbling in what they have to bubble in, and that they're filling it in completely. You'd be surprised how the kids sometimes will write but not bubble, or bubble but not write, and we have to help them there. All right. There's a section on the back of the answer sheet that asks for the form code, the test ID, the test book serial number, and the test room code. All of that's got to be filled out. Remember, the test room code is just the room number that you're testing in right now. And they have a certification statement that they'll fill in during testing. Ultimately, they have to sign and date that. So if you could check that information as the kids are filling it out, or certainly before you turn the materials in, it's be much appreciated. At the end, we ask everyone to bring the materials back to room 255. We'll check them in as fast as we can. Yes, we have to do some counting, but we get people through as fast as possible. If you had to move something in the classroom, you shouldn't have to, but if you did, if you could, return that, that would be great. And ultimately, return all your materials, used, unused, everything goes to 255, where we'll be to collect it. So if you have questions on any of this, all you got to do is let me know. You can email me, you can stop on by, talk to myself, talk to Sherry Cody, um, and we'll be here to help you. And we'll certainly be in room 255 to help everyone on test day. So thank you once again for your attention to this, as well as all of your help on test day. Have a great one.